Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm excited to be hopping along with some awesome card makers for this Spellbinders collaboration hop. Today we're going to make this card using the Dancin Girl Day of the Dead. There's also a Dancin Boy Day of the Dead. These move a little bit, and some Dancin Halloween sentiments that are full of puns. There's also a Dancin Grim that I did not ask for, and I have total remorse. Like, I'm crushed by this. These are the flowers from the Envelope of Wonder die set. It's a huge die set, and at some point I'll probably make a video showing you the envelope, but this flower did it for me. I just love it so much, especially with that gold detail. To put together lots of flowers, I just tape everything together. So I've got a hodgepodge of low-tack tapes here. I ran that through a squillion times. We are not going to use anywhere near that many flowers, but now I have tons and tons left over for future projects and future videos. So stay tuned if you are interested in those. And then I just keep them all on this little Spellbinders diamond magnet thing because I don't want to lose them. This is an older set. This is the Essential Modern Ovals. We're using the second and third largest to create the focal point on our card and a place for our girl to dance. So I cut out this skull twice from white cardstock, and instead of paper piecing in all these tiny little bits, which I didn't feel like doing, I am going to use an alcohol marker and just color over the different pieces that I want different colors. And I've put a little bit of tape on the back. I used a micropore tape, which is, it's a medical tape, but it's also a paper tape. And so I find it easier to glue onto things than like a cellophane tape. Then I'll take this second skull and I will just glue that right on top. I love that I get that pop of color in each of those places, and they're a little bit recessed, which I feel fits with this skull anyway. I'm going to pop this into her hair. I looked at that hair dye so many times and was like, what is that? It's because they made it really smart. It's super easy to put the hair on. She's got these lips that, again, I just cut out of white. I think it was connected to another dye, and I was like, let's just cut all this out of white and I'll color it with some alcohol markers. And then I'm going to add the bun to her hair. There are some flowers that you can add to her bun, and I will tell you, for me, this is the trickiest part of putting her together because the bun is not very wide. And if you don't want to overlap the two flowers on the side, we're going to have a trio, then you need to get those pretty far out, right? They're on the very edge of that bun. And in fact, I thought I had it right, but I'm going to end up gluing these down and then trying to move them. This was the first time I had put her together. And so, you know, these are the things you learn as you're like, I think I know what I'm doing. And then maybe you didn't. I'm adding little white centers to the flowers. I just thought that there was so much color on here already, and we're going to add even more with some flowers on the card. And so here it is. You can see that purple flower overlaps them an awful lot. But that's the beauty of wet glue, right? You can just kind of pull and tug and they'll move. It'll work. Once that bit's done, the rest of this is really simple. So her head is not going to get glued to her body. Okay, there is a hole up where like her head would go, and that's because we're going to put a foam dot in there so that it can swing and she can dance. But then when you start layering everything up, they did a really good job. It's super simple to see where pieces go. So I tend to lay down glue on a couple of pieces at a time and then pick up and lay things down a couple at a time. For the dress, there are two separate dies for the dress, and each die cuts out several pieces. So I knew all like which ones should be blue and which ones should be purple. I just had to pick two colors of cardstock that went together. It was so slick. And then this is maybe slightly tricky. Make sure you sort of line up the top part of the skirt over the bottom before you go gluing it down. I double checked and I was grateful for that because it would have been easy, I think, to get that a little bit crooked. And then she's got a little belt, and I added that in black. For her hands, I found it easiest to add glue to them and then to leave them on my work surface and just lay the body onto them. But then when I go to add the maracas, I'm going to be really careful. I want to make sure that they're not going to end up behind her head or running into her head as her body swings and dances. And so I'm layering up. There's two pieces for the maracas, and you can kind of see through that top one to the back one. I tried to pick really like bold, vibrant colors. You certainly can make these Dancin' Day of the Dead characters sort of Halloween-y, but I wanted to make them kind of Day of the Dead, right? Which is a celebration of life and of our ancestors. And so bright, bold colors. And then we're going to choose some florals, some really bold florals instead of going for a spooky background. I don't know if you guys have seen Coco. I was like, that looks like a creepy thing for a kid's movie. I think it came out, I don't know, 2015, 2016, something like that. But during 2020, we were all desperate. We watched it as a whole family. It's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful, and I love it. So that's why here I've taken the flowers from the envelope of Wonder, and I just cut all the flowers out of 2 different shades of pink, and then I just line them up, right? And I alternate the colors. If there's a flower that needs more than 2 pieces, I have some gold pops of color, but I just flip-flop back and forth between the darker and the lighter pink. The centers on these. On the website for the envelope of Wonder, somebody had done like the black behind the gold. And so I was inspired by that as well. But then here I was like, let's stick with that black center for these, and we'll add a pop of gold later on. As I'm laying these down, I pause for a quick second with my pickup tool. I need to let the glue grab real quick before I move on to the next piece. Okay, so this tiny piece, and then I let it grab, and then I lay it on the next one, and I let it grab, especially as you stack more and more of them, because then they get heavier, and if you try to pick it up too soon, it'll like fall off the end of your wax tool. I'm using a gold Uniball Signo pen, and I am just going to add little dots of gold sort of off center on each of these flowers. I have this in gold, silver, and white, and they work beautifully as long as I remember to scribble with them first. I didn't when I started. This is my card base. It is 11 by 3¼ and I have scored it at 5.5. And the original plan was to make a mini slimline card. I released a free printable last week where we take this 5.5-inch tall card base and we stretch it to 6¼ ultimately this ends up being taller than that. So normally, like here's my envelope, and I would just sort of lay this on here and glue it to make sure that it fits in the envelope, but that's not going to work. So I will link to a video in the description box and at the end of this one where I was using that sketch and made one that ended up being taller. And so I also cut down an envelope, just a slimline envelope, to fit the card. So here you can see I've got all these flowers. I've arranged them on the bottom and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm not going to go through all the work to make all these flowers and then cover up that much of them with this focal piece. So I'm going through now and I'm just adding glue underneath each one. And ultimately, this card ends up being 6¾ inches, 7 inches. But you know, you could just put that in a regular business envelope or a slimline envelope and that would work as well. I'm picking these up with my wax pickup tool, but at this point I had put so many of these flowers together that both of them, I have 2, were kind of covered with glue. So especially the larger ones I'm picking up with my hands, and that just seemed a little bit easier. So this is the stamp set that coordinates with these Dancin' Day of the Dead characters, and it's so cute. There's curses, I missed your birthday, have a frightfully sweet Halloween. I'm using let's celebrate your day. I thought about Feliz Dia de los Muertos, and I probably will, like as we get closer to Day of the Dead. My kids go to a school where they get Spanish in grade school, which I think is phenomenal. So we'll probably make cards for their Spanish teacher. They love you to death with the Dancin' Grimm. When I saw really the stamp set, I was like, oh, there's so many really good ones for the Dancin' Grimm. So I'll probably buy him later because he's great. So next I'm going to arrange my dancer on this little focal image that I put together with those essential modern ovals. And these are some old circle foam dots, probably from Michael's is my guess. And they're so old I don't trust the stick on them. So I wanted to make sure I got the body in the right place, and then I will hold the body over the head as I'm adding my foam tape to try to keep it at the top. I don't want this to run into it while it's swinging. And then I will just kind of peel off all the backer papers and use my wet glue to give myself a little bit of wiggle room when I lay this down. So as I mentioned, this is a hop, and you can click on the hashtag in the video title to find the other videos in the hop, but I will also link individually to each one of them in the description box below. Truly, some of my favorite card makers are in this hop. Please, please check them out. If you're looking for more wonderful small channels, this is a really great way to find some. So here I have my flowers kind of hanging off, and off camera I did add just a few more up high on the side so it didn't look like I had just skipped flowers on the rest of the background, and I will just trim them off with my scissors. Any of the really large pieces I've kept for another project. And then I trimmed out the Let's Celebrate Your Day just into like a sentiment strip, and I layered that onto some mirror gold cardstock that coordinated with the centers of some of those flowers. I'm going to pop that up just a little bit with some 1mm thin foam squares from Spellbinders. And at this point, I'm like wet glue on everything, right? I am not risking putting this in the wrong spot. But I'm just trying to get it centered down there. That wet glue lets it kind of float a little bit, and then once I press it down, it's not going anywhere. To get this top piece where I want it, and I'm going to pop it up a little bit too, I am lining it up on the front of the card, and then I've added some temporary tape just to give me a visual on the back of how high up to bring my foam tape. So this is also just 1mm foam, and I'm going to add that all over the back and then wet glue. So here's the thing, watch the card move in the background because I laid it down and I didn't like it, and then I picked it back up. Why do it once when you can have the joy of doing it twice? It's okay. It ended up exactly where I wanted it, and that will finish my card. Isn't she cute? I hope you like this too. If you are new to my channel, I would love to have you join me. Please give this a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.